존경하는 김정은 동지께서 대회 주석단에 나오셨습니다.
Due to recent internal and external struggles and conflicts, North Korea is on the brink of collapse. But what would the collapse of North Korea mean to East Asia? The collapse of North Korea could equate to a more peaceful East Asia with less conflict and an integrated/unified Korea, but could also mean more instability and new economic strains for the entirety of Korea, which would go on to affect all of East Asia. The collapse of North Korea would lead to a more peaceful East Asia with a lesser probability for war. One common theme of Eastern Asian politics since the 1990s has been the constant threat of nuclear war imposed by the North Korean nuclear weapons program. The North Korean nuclear weapons program has long been seen as a source of tension between the Hermit Kingdom and its southern neighbor, South Korea, as well as Japan and even China, its long-standing ally that has recently imposed sanctions on North Korea. Because of the present situation, there are several countries that would support a unified Korea under a Seoul government. For example, China, according to usnwc.edu, recently states that it would support a unified Korea even if it were under the government of the Republic of Korea. A key reason as to why several nations trust the South Korean government over the North is their stance on nuclear weapons. While the North has wantonly tested weapons of mass destruction, South Korea, on the other hand, has pledged against the proliferation of nuclear weapons according to NTI.org and will most likely dispose of the North's stockpile. However, the main reason why so many East Asian countries want unification in the peninsula is to finally end war-provoking actions in the region and ease tensions between North Korea and South Korea, and also between North Korea and Japan. The collapse of North Korea would reintegrate it into world affairs. A combination of global sanctions and a reluctance to surrender power from the Kim dynasty has resulted in isolation for North Korea from the rest of the world. Because of such an isolation, North Korea has used its military power as a bargaining chip in East Asian affairs with limited success. Starvation, corruption, and poverty are all results of a politically isolated Northern Korea that is unwilling to take a role in the world stage. If North Korea were to collapse, the Southern government will most likely take over operations from the Northern government and will reunite the North with South Korea. Because of this, it is safe to assume that unification between the two states will result in a reintegrated North Korea, which will have more economic opportunities for former citizens of the North. Due to this new economic opportunity, North Koreans will become wealthier and will have enough money to pay for food, water, and clothing, thus relieving the former state's citizens from poverty and famine. While there are positives to a North Korean collapse, it would also mean more challenges for South Korea if the South tries to make a bid for reunification. Even though the majority of East Asian countries want to see reunification between North and South Korea, there are many hurdles and challenges that will be brought upon the new state through both economic and social means. For example, if unification were to occur, there would be wide social unrest in the North due to the Kim dynasty's reluctance to surrender power to the South, according to The Guardian. Such a social disruption can lead to increased crime rates and possibly a new political strife in a unified Korea entirely, which would be similar to the one seen in the late 1940s. Another major problem is the cost of unification. Economic experts are predicting that the cost of unification could be anywhere from $500 billion, according to International Business Times. Even though the South has a relatively strong economy, it is doubtful as to whether it can handle such a large cost so smoothly without suffering any economic setbacks. In order to pay for the economic strains brought upon by reunification, the South may sign new laws into place that will improve the economy, but could also harm the environment, according to CSIS.org. Because of the easing of environmental restrictions, the environment may suffer in Korea and cause several problems, such as deforestation and smog. The collapse of North Korea would benefit East Asia by creating less of a possibility for war and reintegrate North Korea into global participation, but would also harm East Asia by creating problems of economic and social instability in the Korean Peninsula that could spread to other regions. Via a North Korean collapse, not only would South Korea be affected, but also nations that have a strong East Asian presence, such as China and Japan, of whom many nations are dependent on economically, which in turn would affect those dependent nations, and so forth and so on. Such a chain reaction shows that the world is so interconnected and so dependent on itself that even nations such as North Korea can potentially change the course of politics and or common attitudes of countries as big and powerful as China.